Hey everybody, as you know, all millennials are assigned a podcast and this is ours. Welcome to Keller Bear Has a Podcast. I'm Michael. As usual, I'm joined by Stacy, Trey, and Sean. This is the podcast where each episode we take a pop culture topic and go around the horn giving opinions you didn't ask for. This episode, we're talking sitcoms. Can we talk about some feedback we got? I have some.
Oh no!
I have some.
I don't
feedback.
take this well. We established this last time. If they don't like it, they hate us.
No. Michael Harper, our buddy Michael Harper, wrote in and said there is no way Trey did not know that Leon Bridges was from Fort Worth. I simply don't believe it.
Spoken like a true born and bred Texan.
There you go.
He also said,
It clearly revolves around people from Fort Worth.
I didn't even know who Leon Bridges was. So
okay, make sure Michael Harper knows that. That's way worse than not knowing he's not from Fort Worth.
I had no idea.
But does Michael believe it? Does he believe that Stacy doesn't know who Leon Bridges is? That's the question.
Oh, yeah, I think he'd believe that.
Michael also said, I now feel I have a better understanding of all four of you, and my opinions of each of you has changed. You're great, each of you.
Oh, great. Did he have bad opinions before?
I was going to say, what were we before?
That's... You know what? That's a mystery.
Love you, Michael.
For the record, every time you guys talk about Michael Harper, I'm like, I like that guy.
He's great.
Every time. He's a good dude.
He's one of the greatest human beings.
He makes fantastic beer.
And he makes fantastic beer. Funky Picnic in Fort Worth. Go get some. Sean Carlton, buddy of Sean and I's from college, he responded, how TF is Led Zeppelin overrated? They invented heavy metal. What is wrong with this guy?
Yesterday, I turned on Stairway to Heaven because, I was thinking about this, getting ready. I was like, I need to go back and revisit that. Oh, also, I listened to the Highwaymen, which I originally searched for, and this is not a joke, the Highway Women, and I couldn't find them because it was ingrained in my head. Mm-hmm. But I tried Stairway to Heaven again, and I swear I got 2 minutes in, and I was like, this is just like... I'm leaning more towards hating them because I was like, this is just agonizing.
Don't listen to Stairway.
Yeah, why are you listening to Stairway?
It's like their number one top hit of all time.
Okay, yes, that's like somebody that's like.
Well, either way,
any Led Zeppelin fan, Stairway is not even is probably not even close in their top 10.
Not in the top 10.
There's so much better stuff that they did than Stairway. Stairway was just their most renowned, I guess, popular, but
palatable stuff, or what it most consumed by the common people.
Sean Carlton also he told us to check out Christopher O'Reilly on YouTube, who is a guy who does piano cover songs of Radiohead. And said they're really good. And I actually listened to a few and they are really good. So thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Bryson Turner, who is a former youth of mine, he said, this is incredible. I had no idea I needed this in my life. Also, I probably have had a fight with Sean.
Probably. Don't you forget it, Bryson.
Michael Aguilar, another buddy of ours, that said these have been absolutely fantastic. Thank you, sir. We love you. And also my wife, Jenny, my beautiful wife, she wanted me to say that Trey is right about Beyonce being overrated.
Jenny.
I know.
But I can't put that on record because you will immediately get canceled. And I'm not even famous and I'll be canceled.
Braden and Boise says, keep up the good work.
Did you just make that up? You just made that up.
Boise seems oddly specific.
He lives in Boise.
The alliteration is what I don't trust.
That's what it is.
He gets that a lot.
Anyway, that's some feedback that we got. Keep sending that stuff in. We want to hear y'all's opinions on things because it's fun. I don't really look at myself too often.
Yeah, I do too. Everybody does, right?
What?
Just look at themselves on the thing.
No, I said I don't look at myself too often.
All right. Never
Sorry.
mind.
Me either.
Yeah, no,
Right in my
exactly.
I mean,
That's the
yes,
answer.
yes, you check yourself, but like I don't like stare and like
Do you do it before or after you wreck yourself?
I check myself and then I wreck myself. I check myself or I wreck myself. I have to make a choice.
Either. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Same.
Do y'all remember John Eldredge's Wild at Heart?
Yeah.
Do I? I just threw it away the other day.
Wait,
You
really?
threw it away to make room
Yeah.
for more underwear.
We were cleaning out a garage.
Price.
We were cleaning. Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly. We were cleaning out a garage, and I found a big stack of old books, and that was one of them. Also, what was the other one? Enchanted or
Yeah.
what's the female
It's
one?
for women.
Yeah,
Just letting
Yeah.
women know who they're supposed to be.
right. Captivated or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Crystal was like, "Should we like donate these or something?" I go, "No, we're recycling
Yeah.
them in the recycling bin." So
The Wild at Heart field manual, which was an accompaniment.
I threw that one away as well.
There was a activity, I guess, in there that it told you to do, which was to go to like the bathroom, get completely naked, find a full
So you
length
completely
mirror.
what?
Get completely naked, find a full length mirror, and you have to stare at yourself for like I want to say like at least 2 minutes. And
So like a Tuesday morning.
Chris Norwood and I were obsessed with that. Not like doing it. Hey man, you want to do that Wild at Heart field manual thing again?
I don't want to do it by myself. Will you come with me?
Will you come with me? I'll stare at you and you stare at me. It'll be fine. No, we were obsessed with the fact that it was even in there. That was
Yeah.
that.
There's no way in hell that was in the women's version.
I don't know.
Can't
There's
speak to
no
that.
way.
The women's version was written by John Eldredge's wife.
Right,
and,
but we
and
weren't-
John Eldredge
As
But
it
we
should
weren't
be.
allowed to like know that we
Yeah.
had
It was
bodies.
body part.
written by John Eldredge with foreword by John Eldredge's wife.
But
Slash
she didn't
property.
help him with the men's one. I'm sure.
Oh God, no.
Right.
That's how they do a lot of those women's devotionals. The only, like it'll usually say where you went to school and like your stuff. Half the time it will just say so-and-so's wife. Like
Mm.
that's your credentialing to be able
Yeah.
to write books.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
In my circle, it was all Steve Arterburn. Y'all know Steve Arterburn?
Yes.
Every Man's Battle.
Every man's battle. Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
So
Yes.
that was the big one in my
Gosh.
evangelical circle. There's a lot of him. Of course, a lot of Jensen Franklin.
Unspoken. Unspoken.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
A lot of that.
Dylan's masturbating again.
Y'all were the ones who
Prayer
told me
requests,
about those,
unspoken.
Unspoken.
before.
Unspoken 5 times today.
Unspoken. 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 10 unspokens.
All right. So sitcoms. Who's going first? Trey?
I'm first. All right.
All right.
Sitcoms.
Sitcom that you hate.
Sitcom that I hate. This is kind of a tough one because one, I don't really have a sitcom that I think that I actually legitimately hate. If there's ones I don't like, I just don't watch them. So I can't ever really grow a hatred for them. But there is one sitcom that I think is really dumb that I've never liked. I've seen several episodes, never liked it. And I decided I hate it because it is a very popular all-time great sitcom on a lot of people's radars. But it's not funny and it makes light of domestic violence. So the sitcom that I hate is The Honeymooners. Classic The Honeymooners. It's like, oh, it's really funny that you keep threatening to punch your wife. Cool.
That's a good one.
Well, yeah, he
Cool.
says one of these days.
Yes.
I don't think he
that
ever
is-
actually does it.
That is the very definition of a threat is one of these days I'm going to physically harm you. I don't know if y'all have seen many episodes of it, but I saw quite a few. It's just not funny. It's also just not a very, even from that time era, like Andy Griffith, I Love Lucy. I find those funny. I find those
Well,
interesting.
It preceded all those. And I think that's why it's held in such high regard. I think it's considered like one of the first sitcoms of that kind.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. And yeah, I've seen episodes, and yes, we're definitely living in a different era.
One interesting thing I discovered about it was there was only one season ever. And
Really?
it was 39 episodes.
Good gosh.
39 episodes in a single season.
Calm down.
Which also explains why it was only one season, because they did 39 episodes.
Sitcom that I hate, The Big Bang Theory. I don't get it. I've watched multiple episodes. I've not laughed once, and I've left irritated. I don't get it. I don't understand why people like Sheldon and don't find him completely annoying. It's like someone else's interpretation of what a nerd is, the whole show. Because I know a lot of nerds. I might even be one for all I know. I probably am. But it's like watching somebody's like idea of nerds just love Star Wars. That's it. That's what a nerd is. Everybody loves Star Wars, not just nerds.
Well, not everybody, but
it's like well, you know what I mean. They're very lucrative. They make a lot of money. They're not this niche nerd thing. Like, oh, you like Star Wars? I do too. Ooh, and I think it's awful. I don't think it's funny. And I actually think it's offensive to nerd culture.
I do like it. I think it's funny, but I get everything that you're saying. Yeah, it's definitely Chuck Lorre's idea of what a nerd is supposed to be.
You're not bothered by Sheldon.
Mm-mm. I think he's funny. I really do think he's funny.
No.
The one thing is with the nerd stuff, they talk about Star Wars some, but not a whole lot. Their big thing is Star Trek.
Yes.
Which I think is more of niche nerd culture. I mean, like there are people who like Star Trek that aren't nerd culture, but that's definitely more specific.
It's all like the mainstream, like the most mainstream nerd stuff.
Oh yeah.
And that's not what nerds are. Like
they're
nerds,
trying to be as stereotypical as possible.
Yes, and it's annoying, and it comes off as patronizing, and I literally don't think it's funny.
Yeah. I think more people agree with you in the long haul than with me.
There's no way that's true. That's
in the long
massive
haul,
show.
I think.
Yeah, that's a really popular show.
But it got worse and worse as it ended. Like every year that it's ended, it's not something that people like are seeking out in syndication or anything like that. I think it was really popular while it was on, but I also don't think it's something it's not going to be The Office, Friends, anything that like goes with time. I think it'll eventually fall off. I
really hate it. It makes me angry.
I think Jim Parsons is really funny.
No, he's not. He reads like every line reading the exact same way, and everybody just thinks it's so funny how he talks. Oh, it's like if Family Matters was just Screech saying, "Did I do that?" like every 2 seconds, and everybody just thinking it's so funny. When at the very least they let him do that once an episode, not every episode.
Urkel.
What did I say?
Screech.
Oh, R.I.P.
A real melding of worlds there. Yeah,
R.I.P.
Oh my goodness, too soon, Michael.
Yeah.
I had him on the brain
last week, I think.
Yeah,
on the brain. I'm sorry.
The Sheldon thing, though, I think when he's trying to say something funny, it's like when I'm trying to make a joke and I'm like, right, guys, and I want you to laugh at me, but no one's laughing. Like I feel like that's what is happening on Big Bang Theory. Like right now, I hate when you guys do this.
What? You're talking. We're listening.
You're doing that face.
I was thinking that, except when most people laugh when Sheldon says it. That's Michael's issue is that they do
canned laughter.
Yeah, if I had a laugh track on my phone,
you can have that, Stacey.
I can.
Yeah.
Well, I was just about to ask, do you think that I'm curious if the laugh track or the live studio audience has impacted how you view, or I guess how much you enjoy sitcoms.
Yeah, actually, I was listening to, I think it was Pete Holmes' podcast, but I don't remember who he was on talking to. But they were actually talking about the Big Bang Theory, and is like, if you turn the laugh track off, and then there's just this pause of like, like
It's creepy.
you're telling people when to laugh, and like that does impact the way you feel about the show, or like if everyone else is laughing, you join in laughing too. Like
they have. I mean, you can go on YouTube and watch videos where they've cut out all the laughter, or there's one where they've replaced it with Ricky Gervais's laugh, which is amazing. And it's just him just scream laughing between jokes. But it's unsettling.
I think that a laugh track. I think this is an obvious answer, but to me, a laugh track is fine if it's funny. And can even at times when it's like literally a actual studio audience, it can make it even funnier because like the laugh may be going on longer because it's so funny, and then it becomes this kind of communal thing. When I don't think it's funny, I find it irritating as all get out. I can't.
Yeah, there's also something about a live audience where there's something funny on another level about playing to an audience, that you're playing to an actual crowd, and there's a bit of a wink there. Yeah. But if it's an obvious laugh track or there's no acknowledgement at all, and in the Big Bang Theory, I mean, based on those videos where they've taken out the laugh, it's so long. The gaps are so long, and it's just so uncomfortable. The dead silence, and that's the history. That's kind of the history of the laugh track. I don't know if you've ever kind of heard the story about how it came about, but the laugh track really was kind of at the beginning of television to help, I guess, give people some training wheels that were coming out of live theater shows, Yeah. And so they're watching these shows alone in their home for the first time, and if there's no one there to laugh with them, that they feel more alone. And they just feel so isolated. And so I get it. I do get the idea of introducing a laugh track so you actually feel like you're a part of something more than just sitting at home watching TV alone. Anyway, I think that time passed at some point, and maybe now it's not quite so necessary. And I think that's what bugs me so much about the Big Bang and modern shows. I get it honestly, it feels almost natural in Friends and shows like that. But yeah, shows that are still going on with it, I'm not sure it's necessary.
All right, Sean.
Yeah.
Sitcom that you hate.
Mine is also the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Yes. For all the reasons you said and all the reasons I have already said. Yeah, I can't stand it. I tend to, for these lists, I tend to think like, I don't hate a lot of things. I don't. And the last one, it was really hard to say that I hated some band or artist. For this one, again, it's hard to say that I hate something. And so I tend to think of it like there's the next question is overrated. Who do you think, what show do you think is overrated? And so I take that as like a scale, how overrated do I think something is? And can I then say that I hate that thing? And the Big Bang Theory is that thing. I think it is so overrated that I hate it. You said it best. I don't get it. I agree. I don't get it. I really don't. I've tried. I think everyone in my family enjoys it. My extended family. Crystal doesn't like it. We don't watch it either. But my extended family loves it. I can't stand it.
Does Jeremy like it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm surprised.
I love you, Jeremy, but I don't get it.
I love you too, Jeremy, but you're better than that.
No, it's okay. That makes me feel a little bit more vindicated that y'all are wrong and I'm right.
I think it's because of the Star Trek stuff. I think you're right though. I think it's because of the Star Trek stuff.
I love Star Trek.
Yeah, no,
I love it. Like I legitimately love Star Trek. I've watched all of it.
I grew up with it, yeah.
But I don't find their stuff funny on Star Trek in the show.
That's all right. Y'all can hate things and I can like things, and we can disagree and still love each other.
I hope so,
That's
because
true.
that's the basis of this entire podcast.
I think honestly, this podcast is nothing if not us growing into recognizing that if people don't like the things we like, they don't hate us.
Hopefully.
You've been saying that into the mirror lately, John.
Sean, are you okay, buddy? Sean?
Fine. I'm fine. Thank you.
No, Sean, buddy, are you okay? You're okay?
Okay. I'm okay.
Oh, okay.
Sean
Right.
takes the wild at heart to the extreme, goes in, strips naked, stares into the mirror, and just writes with lipstick, "They don't hate you."
They don't hate you. And then I put the lipstick on.
Well, the purple did look really good on you earlier.
I kind of thought so too.
Nobody knows what you're
glad.
talking about.
I feel
All right,
Sean
Stacy.
sometimes wears lipstick to zoom.
I swear,
Stacey.
Stacy also
Really good.
hates The Big Bang Theory.
Stacy, sitcom that you hate.
Brace yourselves. It's the Big Bang Theory.
You're kidding. Oh, man.
this is the
I'm
best
not
day of my life. This is the
Fantastic.
best day of my life.
I'm not
Fantastic.
kidding.
Will
So
there be a day where we get a 4 for 4 on one of these?
no. Well, on one, maybe.
That will be the most exciting day of my life.
This is fantastic.
Well, and I
I'm
feel
so happy right now.
I've been holding back because I actually had like very specific reasons that I didn't want to say because then I wouldn't have anything to say. Trey, come back. You just
Trey's-
told Sean it was okay.
Trey has left the Zoom.
So, I actually used to watch Big Bang with Dustin.
Sorry, that took me so long to find. That's what I was doing. Go ahead.
Trey just sent in our chat a middle finger just for
Everyone.
for
And I like that it says Trey to everyone. To every one of you.
So rude.
Everyone.
uh,
Trade of the world.
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Finger.
Stacey.
So Dustin and I were in college, I believe. This is like when we first started dating and Big Bang Theory is on. I was like, oh, look, it's a nerd like you. And so we watched the first episode and he's like, this is the worst piece of garbage I've ever seen. Like, I hate this. And I was like, well, it's not that bad. Like, they're nerds like you. And then
why
So-
did he keep dating you?
because I
Did you do that like throughout your relationship? Just kept saying like nerd, like you, and say it in that way?
Probably. I
Dustin,
mean, I was really cute.
I think there's some trauma there.
You should probably talk.
All right, I'm texting him now.
You should. Yeah. You know that I'm not a great person to like live with. You should always text Dustin. Are you okay?
I'm texting him right now.
Well, I guess like let's be
You
honest though.
text weird.
I'm a little bit of a nerd too. I just didn't know it. Anyway, but Dustin is legitimately a nerd. Like he is a comic book nerd. He loves talking to Jeremy because they can nerd out about very like specific things that other people don't. Whatever. He is a legitimate nerd. So he hates that show because they misrepresent nerd culture, he says. Because like the way they handle comic books really pisses him off. Because that is not like you
Wait.
do not handle comic books like that.
Wait, you're literally talking about how they pick up comic books,
Yes.
handle comic books.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make
Like
that
the
clear.
actual physical picking up of a comic book and the way they read them.
That is
not
amazing.
right.
That
Yeah,
is
like,
amazing.
he is very incredulous about that. Like he gets real pissed off about it. That
It's a sitcom. In The Office, that's not a normal office in like American life. That's not how things go.
But they're
It's
not
friends. 6 actual 20, 30-year-old adults don't spend 8 hours a day drinking coffee.
Why not? We do. The thing is, there should be like a nerd on set that's like, hey, we don't do that, man. Like on Grey's Anatomy, there's actual surgeons on set that say like, hey, that's not how you hold that. That's not whatever. It's
That's not how we sneakily have sex in a closet. We would usually do it in the evening shifts.
right.
This is
And there
ridiculous.
would be no one else.
I'm just saying. So I feel like people, like Michael's saying, I think it's a misrepresentation of actual nerd culture. But also, I will say this. I think I don't know if I've talked about this before or not, but I actually was fact checking myself on this because sometimes I say things and I don't know. I think Big Bang Theory came on during the writer's strike. Like, do you guys remember the big writer's strike where a lot of shows? Okay, so I am convinced that if the writer's strike did not happen, they would have been canceled in the first season. But they had more episodes already in the can than a lot of other like sitcoms that were on at that time. So like I wrote it down. They had a 17 episode season, and other shows that were on that were like popular had like 8 or 9 episodes because their writer's strike happened and the show got stopped.
That's an interesting theory.
I'm firmly convinced that it wouldn't have gone on, but there was nothing else to watch because like we kept watching it too because there was nothing else on.
Interesting theory.
That's my theory. Yeah.
My only problem with that theory is 6 of the seasons it was on the air, it was one of the top 3 shows on television.
But you got sucked in. Like you could not.
Yeah, but sitcoms you can just stop watching.
I never do. I just keep seeing it through.
Yeah, I do.
Seasons of that.
I do think people like legitimately love it. I just don't get it. I don't get their love for it.
I don't know.
But I don't doubt their love for it.
Somewhere there's a group of businessmen and women who are having a podcast, and they're talking about how much they hate The Office because that's not what an American office is like. It's nothing like that.
They're morons.
We legitimately hate our lives. Okay, it's not fun like that.
But see, that's the thing though, is like if like the Big Bang Theory like makes jokes that are very surfacey instead of like taking nerd culture and doing what you usually would in a sitcom, which is what The Office does. You take something that everybody kind of knows about, but then you like expand it and you go deeper with it and you do funny stuff. Yeah. Where like the Big Bang Theory was just like, what are you, Spock? Like that kind of stuff. And it's like, come on.
But that's where it's got to have its broader appeal. I guess I guess what bothers me, and it doesn't bother me. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Everyone hates the Big Bang Theory. It's fine. But I
hate you though. We love you.
Yes.
We love you.
Y'all have turned me into y'all with this now. I feel like, oh my God, everyone said the Big Bang Theory except me. I said the honeymooners.
There's 11 or there's 10 more of these, Trey. It's okay.
At the very least, Trey, you should feel good because, you know, we all ignored domestic abuse issues with this answer. And
that's right.
You went for the domestic abuse thing, which, you know, shows your integrity.
Thank you for trying to rescue that.
Trey, sitcom that you think is overrated.
Sitcom that I think is overrated. This one shocked me, I guess, when I thought of it. But this sitcom is very popular. It's something that stood the test of time. And much like Led Zeppelin,
oh no,
it's not that I think it's bad. It's just I think it ran a little too long. I think people are a little bit too hyped about it. It won 4 Emmys for best comedy, and I can't, for my life of me, wrap my mind around that. Cheers. I think Cheers is a good show. I think it's good. I think the Sam and Diane dynamic is wonderful. I think it's good. I don't get 10 seasons out of it. I don't get 4 primetime Emmy best comedy. It's like a 5, 6. I mean, I'm talking about like Veep, Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm, I Love Lucy. None of these shows won 4 primetime Emmys, and they all had similar longevity or similar esteem.
Veep has won a lot of Emmys. Are you sure?
It's won 3. Yeah, I actually looked. It's won 3, and I was like, well, no, Veep should definitely win more. Seinfeld should win more. Curb Your Enthusiasm has only ever won 1, and it's more niche, but still. Cheers. I think Cheers is just a little overrated, just a little.
So I'm shocked by this because of your love for Frasier.
Yes,
which I'm assuming we may get to later.
It will come up.
So that's why I'm shocked by this, is because you would not have Frasier without Cheers.
That's true, and I'll talk more about that later.
All right,
but I am grateful that it created the character, and I'm super grateful Frasier's coming back. Maybe we'll see. But I think Cheers. For one thing, I didn't love I forget his name, Woody Harrelson's character.
Yeah. Woody. His name is Woody.
Oh, is his actual name Woody?
Yeah.
Oh. And how you feel about Sheldon.
He kept getting confused.
How you feel about Sheldon is very similar to how I feel about two characters on the show. The postal worker.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Cliff
Clavin, and Carla. I don't like Carla, the short Rhea Perlman. Her look, they annoy me.
Interesting. So this is interesting to me because this is a very, to me, like Led Zeppelin pick, in the sense of you can very easily, like our friend Sean Carlton said, you can very easily make the case that Led Zeppelin invented heavy metal. You can't even really make the case for this, but like it just is, like people understand it as Cheers kind of inventing an era of sitcoms and like what sitcoms were and like what they could be. So many aspects of it, like for Cheers, for at least like 20 years, like almost every sitcom you could be like, this is Cheers. Like they're trying to do Cheers in this way. They're trying to do Cheers in this way. Like it was very, very influential. It did go too long. Yes. As most sitcoms do, but
you can create something, let it go for 4, 5, 6 seasons, realize you've done something really good. And so many great sitcoms. Seinfeld was still number one when it was on the air, and Jerry and Larry David were just like, no, 9, we're done. We don't want to do this anymore. Veep 6 and Julia Louis-Dreyfus said, we don't need to do this anymore. It's perfect. I think Cheers just kept going. I think Cheers and Kirstie Alley's character, again, I can't remember her name. She was never an adequate replacement. I really do love the Sam and Diane arc, and I think that created the back and forth love interest type sitcom situation. You see that a lot in later sitcoms. It's just when she left, and I'm like the love triangle with Frasier, all that sort of stuff. It's great. It's good comedy. It just went too long, and that's why I think it's overrated.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
I'll just be the controversial one on the podcast. That'll be my role. We all knew it was probably going to be that way anyway. So. I like Cheers. I see what you're saying.
I haven't seen an episode in so long, but that was like my insomnia show when I was in high school. Watch it on Nick at Night. Just like, you know how they play like 15 episodes or something? Loved it.
Conversely, easily one of the greatest sitcom theme songs ever. Easily one of the greatest sitcom theme songs ever.
Have you ever listened to the whole song?
Yes.
Yeah. It gets intense.
It's a great song. So yeah. And it was a really great series. Just maybe a little too much. A little too much love.
I think I gained a bit more appreciation for Cheers based on those was it like a series on CNN? They did the decades.
Yeah.
They talked a lot about Cheers during the like television episode of that series, and the night I guess whatever decade it was in or whatever. But anyway,
80s,
I really I appreciated that, and I didn't realize how influential it was. I mean, it was on the TV when I was growing up all the time, but I didn't realize its impact until that series.
Yeah, John Carlton's going to be a big Cheers fan. I can already tell. That's
how TF.
Just a reminder to all of our listeners: overrated's relative.
Yes.
Again, it's not saying it's bad.
Yeah. Correct. Yes, it does have to be something that is universally, in some way, universally appreciated. Right. Yeah. Like you can't say Cavemen was overrated.
I mean, again, all relative. You can say it's overrated that they let them air it.
Yeah,
it's true.
You can,
People had to watch this.
It made it past a pilot, and I think that probably means.
Have you ever heard Nick Kroll talk about that?
No.
Man, he was in it. He was one of the original.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he is not kind about it. He is,
I'm sure.
and he shouldn't be, but it's just funny to hear him talk about it.
That's funny. Like,
Was that entire series based on a Geico commercial?
It was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
Which the commercials were funny,
Sure.
incredibly successful.
Yeah.
But you know that I don't necessarily want to see Flo on a sitcom. I don't.
Oh my
necessarily
gosh,
need
no.
that.
No.
The Parental Life guy. It's really funny. I love those commercials.
Yes.
I don't know if I can watch a 22 episode season of that.
Did it make it a whole season?
No, I think it had maybe 6
It was
episodes.
very short. Yeah. Okay. TV show that I think is overrated. Modern Family. And like Trey said, I don't hate Modern Family. And in fact, when it first started, I thought it was very funny. But it's one of honestly the only sitcoms I can think about, because most times with sitcoms, I think what happens is you start watching it and you're like, yeah, this is okay. And then it gets better from there. I honestly can only think of one show that from the get-go I thought was hilarious and was like peak at like the very beginning. And I think that's Friends. I think the pilot of Friends is spectacular. But Modern Family, I thought also had a very strong beginning. And it's the only show that I think I really liked at first. And then after about a season and a half, I was just like, okay, I get it. And I feel like we're just doing the same jokes over and over again. Like the kid's dumb, the dad's dumb, the wife is upset about it. What's her name? The trophy wife, Sofia Vergara talks funny. That's okay. And I got to the point of where like now, well, it's over, but right? Is it over?
Yeah, it's off.
But now if I see like reruns or something and I stop down for a second, I get bored very quickly and move on. So but I also know that people love Modern Family, like love it, looked forward to it every single week, could not wait to see it. And I got to the point pretty quickly where I just couldn't anymore.
It's like one of the only sitcoms that I stopped. I don't like stop watching. Like you were saying earlier about books, Michael, where you're like, I'm in it and I got to finish it. I'm usually like that, but Modern Family, I stopped. But it was so funny in the first couple of seasons.
Yeah.
So funny. And then it was just like, okay.
I didn't start watching it when it first came on. I was like a third or fourth season. I started watching it and I thought it was really funny. And I stuck with it. And I always thought I kind of stopped watching mostly just because they refused to syndicate or stream. And I got rid of all the cable stuff. I was just doing streaming platforms. So I just stopped watching it. But I would see shows here and there. It's actually funny. I'm watching it now because it just dropped on Peacock and Hulu a few weeks ago. So I'm watching it from the beginning all the way through. And I'm in season 3 right now. And I still think it's funny. But from the beginning, and I like it. I like all 3 seasons so far. But from the beginning, I noticed because I started watching it in a later season the first time, I don't like the kids when they're older. I like them when they're younger now. And now that I'm seeing seasons 1, 2, and 3 for the first time, I think they're funnier. I think it's fresher. The older they got, and this I don't know, makes me sound like an old man. They're just so mean. Like all the kids are just so mean and snarky, like not even like cute snarky, just like Lily, Cam, and the gay couple's adopted daughter. She just becomes like a mean person, like as a teenager, like to an extreme.
Hold on. How long did that show go on?
It just ended last year.
A long
like
time.
a year and a half ago.
That's ridiculous. I didn't realize how long it went on.
Emmy Awards.
Oh my gosh.
I think it won 4. I think just like Cheers, it won 4.
I love Lily in the first season where she's the baby and she's just like,
yes, She's so cute.
No facial expression.
Yeah.
Doesn't react to anything. Just she gives.
Even as she gets a little bit older, she's still pretty deadpan. But she's funny. She's cute.
It's a different kid.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they had to
her up they aged her up like 3 years. She's like a baby in the first season. The second season, she's like 3 because they
12.
They couldn't stick with the original actress. She just wouldn't. She wasn't in it.
It's like, hi, I'm now cognizant of everything that's going on around me. I don't want to be an actress.
I'm done.
Can I please stop this?
I don't know how old the baby was, but they did age her up to a different.
It's always fascinated me. The idea that like we have baby actors. It's like, do they want to do that? Is this a thing that like they're going to regret this later? And
no one cares.
I don't.
Sure, you can use my baby.
Just
give me the money.
Collect that check.
Could you
baby
imagine?
Merchant.
My kids would freak out.
Have you watched John Oliver?
Yes.
Okay.
Baby Merchant. All right. So here's my thing about there's another thing about Modern Family. You know how a lot of sitcoms will, when they start to kind of outstay their welcome, one of the things that typically happens is that the characters become incredibly, like the characters become caricatures of themselves. Like their stuff gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And one of the things that you could really see this with is Friends, where suddenly like it was just, you know, oh, Monica is type A. And that's what everything is about, is in terms of her characters. She's type A, you know, and it becomes kind of lazy. And that's one of the things that sitcoms are known for doing when they start to wear thin. I feel like Modern Family kind of started at the caricature thing where it was new. So it was funny, but for me, like it just got like the caricatures started wearing thin and like the characters were never surprising. And it's almost like you could see the joke coming ahead of time. And maybe that's partly why I was just like, I don't want to watch this anymore.
Well, and I think part of, I think you're right. There's a lot of things I think that is funny about it. You can't help but imagine that some of the popularity that it's helped it endure was that it, you know, in terms of the appearance of the different family units, the actual Modern Families, that was groundbreaking. Like that was very attractive to see a variety of couples, you know. I think that was attractive to people. And whether they thought it was the funniest, greatest comedy or not, that they kept watching because there was some sort of representation like that on there.
Yeah, but there were times where I got kind of uncomfortable about the portrayal of the gay characters in that show. It was a little Will and Gracie for me sometimes. Am I the only?
I don't understand what you mean.
You know, just the.
You mean there were two gay guys on there?
I'm gay, so that means I'm flamboyant about everything, and it's like I know a lot of gay people. Most of them are not like that, you know, and so again, the caricature aspect of it, can sometimes, and I think they got into trouble a few times because of that, but.
That's interesting. I would imagine the most controversial caricature would be Sofia Vergara as Gloria, because that is a little over the top.
You'd think so, yeah. And I will say this: I'm a big fan of all the performers in that show. I think they're all really talented. The guy who plays Phil is fantastic, and
Ty Burrell.
Ty Burrell. Yeah. I really do think like I think a lot of the actors themselves. Yeah. Happy Gilmore's Julie Bowen. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. But
which is how I think she actually demands to be introduced.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
She should. If she doesn't, she should.
We can carry it over because my overrated sitcom is Modern Family.
Sean, you and I are best buddies.
I'm not kidding.
We're best buddies.
Right.
And listen, I'll say that overrated is winning 22 Emmys over 11 seasons. Yeah. 22 Emmys over 11 seasons and not really being funny. I I actually totally agree. I started watching it and really enjoyed it for a while, and then I just did not enjoy it at all. And so I stopped. And I went back and watched the last 2 episodes of the series for this podcast. And I thought it was awful.
Really?
I'm going to get myself into trouble.
Don't spoil it for Trey.
I'm going to get myself.
Oh,
yeah. I'm going to get myself into trouble later because I'm going to contradict myself. But the mockumentary,
the one that I love,
the mockumentary that doesn't define what it's doing, gets on my nerves.
I agree. That always seemed a little peculiar to me.
And exactly. We'll get there. So that bothers me, but also with that, their camera work gets more and more. Maybe when you're talking about like the caricature kind of thing, the camera work gets more and more like just cartoonish.
Like okay, they're about to do a push in.
The zoom ins, man. Yeah. The push ins, the push outs. It gets ridiculous because I glanced at the first episode just to kind of like catch myself up, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I get it, yeah. And then I watched the last 2 episodes, and it was like a completely different. Oh my gosh, it was exhausting to watch that camera zoom in and out every time someone was about to do a glance or a look, or like, oh yeah, that she's being crazy again, and we
they
get
know.
it.
They know.
We get it, but they don't.
They know.
But you and me, whoever you are, we get it. So
I never thought about that. Every character jims the camera. Every single character.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that. Y'all are gonna make me hate this show, and
it's exhausting, man.
I just want to say, both of the shows that y'all have already mentioned they do not appear on my list, but they were short lists for very different categories. So
that's my overrated sitcom.
All right, Stacy.
I swear to God, Stacy, I'll hang up.
I didn't pick it.
Oh man, that'd be great.
We need to, at some point, just me, Sean, and Stacy, just without Trey knowing. Now it's kind of rude, but without Trey knowing, just make sure that all of our answers are the exact same.
That would kill Trey. We shouldn't do that.
I think so.
I don't care if all your answers are the same if I don't care about the show, but I like both of those shows. Anyway.
Well, this one's gonna get me in trouble, I feel like, because I think all of you really like this show, but I just don't really get. I think Friends is really overrated. I just don't really get it. I don't think it's very funny.
Really?
Yeah. I've actually, I should say too, like I've never watched the entire series. I've seen episodes here and there. So maybe that's why, because I haven't like watched all of it at once. And like I've tried at different stages of my life to watch it. And I just don't think it's funny at all.
See, it's hard for me to get upset about that because I feel like I can kind of understand why people don't like Friends or find it annoying. But I'm not one of them. Like and it may be because I legitimately like grew up with it.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's not funny at all. I think it's funny. I agree. I think it's overrated. It was a short list for me in this category. Again, with the relativity of all things, I think it's funny. I feel about Friends very similarly to how Sean and Michael feel about Modern Family, is that it started really strong. I agree. The pilot's excellent. The first season is really excellent. Every year I go back and watch, we've talked about this before. I have shows that I watch for different holidays that I always go back and watch every year, go back and watch all the Thanksgiving episodes. Some of them are really good. Some of them are less than great. But I feel like the longer it was on, the more it was like, no, but okay. I mean, like Monica's neurotic and, controlling. We get it. Phoebe's kind of whimsical and, we're just going to go crazy with that thing. Chandler's the buffoon. Joey's an idiot. Like, about season 4. Okay. Yeah. So that's, I get I think it's funny, but I do feel it was a little too much.
And it's not believable that they're actually friends. Like, why are you people friends with each other? I don't understand.
I get the friends. It's not believable that they live in Manhattan.
Yeah.
In those apartments.
Salaries,
yeah.
No,
Sean, this is not an indictment against you at all.
I love Friends. But I also understand like that my understanding of it, I guess, could be tainted in some way. But I could go on and on about like how good I think it is and how good I think they are, and talking about like performers. Like I think Friends like had a 1 in a million, like lightning in a bottle cast.
Yeah. And flying under the radar, something a lot of people would think about, probably, at least just spitballing off the top of my head, one of the greatest slew of guest stars ever for a sitcom. I mean, they always had great people in there in supporting roles, and there's a lot of good things about it, but I also get the overrated aspect.
But like I think there was one black person ever on the show.
It was the 90s.
Not ever. It's not. There wasn't one black person ever on the show.
Ordering a coffee.
Of consequence, Aisha Hines was like that was the only like character of consequence that was.
And see, I didn't even like that whole love triangle. Like that to me.
Well, and yeah, that's when it was really not
Joey or Ross. I mean, really.
Yeah.
And I do. So there's another thing I'll say about Friends, because David Schwimmer gets a lot of crap, especially on the ticket, especially the musers. They give him a lot of crap. But man, I think David Schwimmer he might be the most underrated performer on that show. I think that he is legitimately funny.
Yeah, I agree.
Even when everybody starts becoming a caricature, I think he's the only character that gets funnier the more he leans into his kind of caricature, which honestly, I guess just completely neurotic was his kind of thing. But like his facial expressions, his physical comedy, I think that he is extremely underrated.
He's a great actor too. He's in if People versus OJ. He does a fantastic job.
Yeah, he was
Rob
really
Kardashian.
good in that.
He's also in Band of Brothers.
He was in Band of Brothers.
Oh yeah.
He was a jerk in Band of Brothers, but he was a good jerk.
I'm relatively new to Friends. I didn't watch it growing up. I didn't watch it while it was on. I think the first episode I actually saw was the finale.
Wow.
Yeah. But I very recently watched it from beginning to end, and I agree. Ross is, I think, my favorite character on the show, which I guess is an unpopular opinion for some reason. But I do agree. It started to really, really wear on me after a while, and I kind of hate watched most of the end of it. Also, just to correct, just a little fact check, there have been 3 black actors in the series of Friends.
Only 3?
Yes.
Okay, that's a legitimate mark against it. That's
Aisha Tyler. As you mentioned, Aisha Tyler was in 9 episodes.
Hold on, let me see if I can think. Would I be able?
Way.
Oh, okay, never mind. All right, never mind.
There's no way. Phil Lewis played Steve in 3 episodes.
3? All right.
Yep.
He had a run.
And then Monique Edwards played Claudia in 2 episodes.
Is Phil Lewis the guy who is on Sweet Life of Zach and Cody? Yo. Never mind.
I don't know. He was in City Slickers.
Is this are these characters like, oh, it's whoever that gets the mail? Do they have speaking?
I don't know. It doesn't say. It just said,
I'm sure they have speaking roles. If it was like actors without speaking roles, trust me, it'd be more actors, because there were always like whenever they would have parties or stuff, like there were always people of color in the party. They just had no voice. Yes, trust me, I've noticed.
Quick fact check real quick. Phil Lewis was indeed in The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
That is impressive.
And to clarify, I don't knew that.
That's impressive.
These are actors who appeared in 2 or more episodes. So there were some people that appeared in 1 episode, but these are 3 out of 121 characters.
in one of the most diverse cities in the United States.
So there you
Right.
Well, and on the note of David Schwimmer, he's talked about that recently. He just did an interview late 2020 where he basically said that that's the one thing he wishes he could go back and change, because really it was the 90s, so it was a different time. It's not something that was really at the forefront of their mind, but he recognizes and validates the claim that there's no reason it should have been 6 white people hanging out in Midtown Manhattan. There should have been more minority representation on there.
You're right, Dave. Yeah, I get your stance on that one, Stacy.
Well, I'm glad that Sean said he hate watched it.
Yeah, eventually turned into hate watching for sure.
Just tears streaming down his face.
Just this is torture. I hate this.
That was kind of funny.
Ross is funny, but I hate.
So the sitcom that I think is underappreciated, speaking of underrepresentation of minorities, this show is something that really falls under the radar. I don't think a lot of people even know it exists, but I've watched it almost the whole time it's been on. It's sort of in hiatus right now. It's supposed to be on, but it got put on hiatus because of the whole COVID-19 quarantine, everything associated with that. But it's quirky, it's funny, it's fresh off the boat. It's so, that's uncomfortable.
Sorry, I thought I 100% knew what you were about to say, and then left turn. Sorry.
You think I was going to say Black Ash?
No, I thought you were going to say Atlanta.
Also,
I thought you were coming at me with Atlanta.
Oh, well, is that a sitcom? Is that a sitcom?
It's a 30-minute comedy. I do think that's a
I thought it was more
question. That's an interesting question. Whether
it
it's
is,
Atlanta.
I thought of that more of like dramedy type thing.
Yeah, same. I love that show.
I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I can't tell the difference clearly. I can't figure out what's a sitcom and what's not.
I'm still
That's
waiting
a
for you
good
to say
thing.
Breaking Bad.
That's a
I'm
good
gonna.
thing. I'm sorry,
but
Trey.
fresh off the boat. If you haven't watched it, it's very, very loosely based off a guy named Eddie Wong, who is a chef. It's very loosely based off his upbringing. So loosely, in fact, that after they created season 1, he said he was out and wasn't going to be a part of the show anymore. But it's funny in a very kitschy, old sitcom model type of way. But it's Constance Wu and Randall Park are in it. Constance Wu is in Crazy Rich Asians, and Randall Park is in a number of things. Right now, he's in WandaVision. Both of them, they play the primary parents. They're brilliant in the show. They're so funny. It exposes. I can't speak to the legitimacy of the way they portray Asian culture, but I have not heard like overwhelmingly negative feedback. I have heard some positive feedback that it's satirical, but it sticks pretty true. But it's a good, funny show that has gotten that, like I said, falls under the radar of most viewers, virtually gets zero recognition from any of the award circuit at all, but is pretty critically accepted and acclaimed. It's got like a 9.4 on Metacritic or something, like a 94 on Metacritic or something like that. It's a good, funny show that just a lot of people don't even know about, and y'all should watch it. I think it's on Hulu right now.
I watched the first couple of seasons, I think, and then just like we didn't have cable anymore, so I stopped. But it is funny. That was funny.
Yeah, and like I said, underappreciated again is relative. I'm not saying it should win 6 Emmys for best comedy for its 6 seasons, but it's just a good, fun, lighthearted, funny show that I think more people should be aware of.
This is your Zach Brown Band entry, because I know nothing about. I mean, I know that it exists, but I haven't watched it. But your recommendation makes me want to go check it out.
Yeah, me too. I knew Randall Park was in it, but that's all I knew about it at all.
And I do love him.
And my inclination,
Really funny.
my immediate inclination was Community or Curb Your Enthusiasm, stuff that I still do think is underappreciated. But the more I thought about it, both of those shows have cult followings. They definitely have awareness on the spectrum. And I settled on Fresh Off the Boat just because, I mean, Stacy has seen some of it. You two haven't really seen it. And that's what I really think is most underappreciated about it is it doesn't need to win all the awards, but more people should give it a try.
What's it
You're
on?
not going to be blown away, but it's funny. It's an ABC show, but it's in hiatus right now. They had 6 seasons. I believe a 7th season was ordered, but they didn't start filming it before they went into quarantine. But I watched it on Hulu from the beginning all the way through.
I think it was like a Modern Family, Blackish, Fresh Off the Boat were all kind of like they're trying to capture what Modern Family had in different families.
It is very, very similar to Blackish.
Yeah.
Without going rightfully, I like Blackish. I think it's a good show, and I think it does so rightfully a lot of the racial divide. It approaches it from a comedic point. It does not do that so much in Fresh Off the Boat. It really is mostly just satirical, lighthearted comedy. There's not a lot of like heavy browbeating or deep introspective type stuff. It's just sort of funny, stereotypical Asian culture, comedy humor.
Is it single cam or multicam? Is there an audience?
It's a multicam. Yeah, there's no audience. It's shot so you've seen Blackish, I assume?
Yeah.
It's shot almost identically. So it's a single cam.
So it's a single cam.
Yeah, it's a single camera sitcom. It's shot almost identically. There's no audience. It's
for some reason in my head I had it as like a multicam studio audience thing. I guess I don't. I guess whatever I'm thinking in my head is not correct.
And it's funny they move from the premise of the show is this Asian family that moves from somewhere. I can't remember where they moved from. I want to say it's New York or Chicago or something like that. And they moved to Orlando or Tallahassee. They moved to Orlando or Tallahassee in Florida. The dad opens
already a funny premise.
Yeah.
the dad, who is very Asian and who is from Hong Kong originally, opens a steakhouse that's like super American. At one point, one of the bits in the shows for a couple seasons is that Kenny Rogers is his business partner. Oh, it's also set in the 90s. It's set when like Eddie Huang was growing up. So it's like, I can't remember the dad's name, but it's like, say his name is Randall. It's Kenny Rogers Randall's Steakhouse. Sort of a Ruth's Chris type situation going on there.
That's awesome.
But
and the grandma's the best. The grandma's
yeah. I don't remember the actress's name. She's in a lot of stuff.
So good.
She's a well-known Chinese actress, but she's hilarious.
I don't think she speaks English in the show.
Not at all.
The whole time. It's great.
And the neighbors are sort of I guess a nod to Modern Family. It's an older guy who is married to a attractive younger second wife type situation. And they're just funny as well. Again, you're not going to be blown away or like challenged deeply, but it's good for a lighthearted laugh.
All right.
Fresh off the boat.
The sitcom that I think is underappreciated. I think this might be controversial in the sense of that you guys might be like, how can this be underappreciated? Because it has won Emmys. But I do think that they're like, there are things that are critically acclaimed that people, just regular folk, just don't watch. There are things that are not just watched by regular people, but critics love it. And so when I think about a show that's underappreciated, it's this show, Veep. I think, and the reason is because legitimately, like I was surprised earlier when Trey intimated that he watched it. And I legitimately think you're the only person I think I know, unless I'm wrong, from Stacy and Sean. You're legitimately the only person I've ever met, other than maybe my wife, who has watched it. Sean and Stacy, have you all seen Veep? No? Okay, so I feel a little bit better then about
it was on my short list of sitcoms that I should have seen.
Okay, So
but it was like during the Trump era, I couldn't watch political things, even if it was like a fun, you know what I mean? It was like, this is too much of my real life. I don't need any more political things, even
well,
if
it started before Trump, but
no, but that's when I found out about it.
Yeah, I get that. And they even talked about like when they were making it during the Trump era of just like we feel kind of like our hands are tied because like we keep thinking, well, we couldn't do this. This would be too ridiculous. And then Trump would do something ridiculous and they were like, okay, because literally, and I think we actually said this, I think Trey or somebody said it back when the total landscaping, what is it?
Yes, Four Seasons landscape.
Four Seasons total landscaping of thing happened.
Yes.
The first thing I thought of was this is an episode of Veep.
Yes.
And we are watching it. This is amazing. Veep is fantastic. It is hilarious. Yeah. It is again like a bunch of performers just at the top of their game. I think Julia Louis-Dreyfus is one of the greatest comedic performers of all time. I think she is fantastic and she nails this character. I can't say enough good things about it. And it's one of those shows that like legitimately I adore. And like I said, anybody I've ever asked about it, they're just like, no, watched it.
I guess I had not realized that Stacey and Sean, y'all had not seen it. I know several people who've seen it, and that's why I totally agree with you, Michael. It was on my short list for several of these categories. It's brilliant. It's hilarious. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is amazing. Tony Hale, I already loved him from Arrested Development, but God, he is so good in this show.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't realize that more people didn't know about it or didn't watch it because I've talked to a few others who have and appreciate it for the same value. If you have not seen that, you should stop doing whatever you are doing, including recording this podcast, and watch that show. It's just so it is. Michael's so right. It is so funny and brilliant. And yeah, conversely to what you said, Stacey, I don't know if I could have gotten through a Trump presidency without Veep. Just watching the ridiculousness of it, like it was such a relief to me that what was happening in real life was also basically happening on screen, and it was such buffoonery. I mean, it gave me reprieve, I guess.
Yeah, it was like a reminder that, like, yes, what you are watching in real life is ridiculous. Like, it's not supposed to be real life. Like, this is as ridiculous as you think it is. Sean, sitcom that you think is underappreciated?
Yeah, I don't have a great. I don't know. I'm not sure if this is truly underappreciated. I feel like it's underappreciated. The Good Place. I think it's underappreciated.
I think it's underwatched.
I think that's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
I don't follow, what the critics say about it or anything. So I can't speak to that. But I loved it from beginning to end. I thought it was fantastic. And from the cameos to the just guest appearances, to the main cast, I thought it was fantastic.
It is critically acclaimed, but yeah, I don't think a lot of people. Yeah, I think there's still a lot of people who have yet to discover it and discover like how good it is.
Another show that was on several of my short lists and is very good, and I maybe unpopular opinion think it's Mike Shore's best work.
I agree.
I think it's really, really well put together.
Well, and I think it's
excellent casting.
Yeah, and from what I've read, like it seems to be like out of all of his television shows, it seems to be like Michael Shore's most kind of niche, like his passion project, because he's just really into philosophy and he's really into moral philosophy, and so like. And that's part of what's amazing to me about the show is that it's legitimately a sitcom about what it is to be good. And that like, I cannot imagine any network being like, yeah, that sounds good, but I'm glad somebody did. I'm assuming he just, based on his previous work, they were like, okay,
Yeah.
we'll let you try this. It'll probably be canceled.
His credibility probably bought him a lot.
Yeah, but it's so good. And the way that like the show like consistently reinvents itself.
Yes.
Sometimes in the middle of seasons. I mean, it just, you never knew where it was going to go. It's a very unique and really great sitcom.
Didn't you I watched the first season going, there's no way in hell they can do a season 2 of this. Like there's
in hell.
Nah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, it was kind of this constant thing of like, I mean, is it going to come back?
Yeah.
I mean, are they really going to can they keep doing this? And they did. It was awesome. I loved that they were able to kind of end it on their own terms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the ending's so good.
Yeah.
It is. So obviously there's a close connection. Good.
No, sorry. You go ahead.
There's a close connection, but on Armchair Expert Dax Shepard's podcast, he does a Good Place week, and he interviews Ted Danson in one episode, Kristen Bell. I don't know how he got her on there. Ted Danson, Kristen Bell, Mike Shore, and Darcy Carden, who, by the way, is criminal that she has not won more awards.
Yeah.
She's for brilliant. The one episode, I think it's just called Janice. The episode is called Janice, where she plays every single character brilliantly.
Yes.
It's amazing.
But they talk a little bit, Mike Shore in his episode talks a little bit about the creation and how it was a little bit of his weight and his name recognition. But apparently Ted Danson and Kristen Bell both read it early on and were like, yeah, we want to do this show.
Yeah.
So when you have Mike Shore coming from Parks and Rec and The Office and his background, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, all that sort of stuff, and then you have Ted Danson and Kristen Bell saying we need to make this show. I mean, NBC, they're not going to say no to that.
Ted
and I'm glad they didn't.
He's another one of those men that the older he gets, the more attractive he is.
He is an attractive man.
He really is.
Also, Mary Steenburgen and his wife, they're both incredibly
Yes,
attractive.
that's true.
women.
Yeah.
Oh,
they're
that's
both drinking children's blood.
Yes.
They're
both
both a
have
part
blood
of the
boys.
cabal, obviously.
They have blood boys.
We'll get to that later. The
Will we?
Ted Danson is remarkable.
Yeah.
And he is so good in that.
So good.
Yeah, sorry. I that's one of the things like throughout that show is I was just like, man, like he's a national treasure. Like Ted Danson is fantastic and he's so good in that. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Also, is Timothy Oliphant the best cameo in that entire show?
Yes.
Wait, who is
as
that?
As himself?
Yes.
Yeah. I laughed. So I actually watched that whole scene. Like I just rewatched it like after I watched it the first time. I was like, I want to rewind. I want to watch that again.
Yes. I think have y'all seen Justified? Have watched Justified at all?
Every single time I say that.
Oh, I know.
Here in Kentucky, your wife says, "Have you seen Justified?"
Because it's fantastic. It is a fantastic show, and Timothy Oliphant is amazing in it, and just like he's amazing in everything he's in. And it's one of those things where I think after watching Justified, if you really dig it, like you get obsessed with him.
Yes.
Like, and you want to just see him in things. And then like couple that with like the fact that like he and Conan O'Brien are like best buddies and like have vacations together and
didn't know that. That's weird.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
One of my favorite podcasts is Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. And one of the episodes he has Timothy Oliphant on, and they're talking about like how they're buddies. And I was like, you're kidding me. And Timothy Oliphant is really funny, and people I don't think realize how funny he is. And he keeps on the Conan O'Brien podcast, he keeps randomly breaking out into fake commercials. He just keeps doing these fake commercials. Anyway, he's amazing. And yes, so when he popped up as himself on The Good Place, Jenny and I both squealed with delight because we love Timothy Oliphant.
I've not seen Justified, so I think of him more as Danny Cordray, super attractive salesman on The Office.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
I know who that is.
Yeah.
Because my daughter is obsessed with it right now, I see him as the old Clint Eastwood type man in Rango.
Oh,
yeah,
because he's that as well.
That's right.
He was also in, was it The Girl Next Door?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's good in that.
Yeah, he actually is. Yeah,
he's good in everything. I love Timothy Olyphant.
Me too.
Sean, I agree. Good Place, underrated. And to further your point, going back to what Michael said, I know several people who have not seen it that I've tried to convince to see it, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll get around to it eventually." And several of them are people in churches and stuff. I'm like, "No, but for real, watch it." There's like some really good like moral philosophy type stuff about our construct.
That's not a good sell.
I'm gonna rewatch it. I'm actually gonna rewatch it. You know what? I'm gonna rewatch it. Anyway, that's my show.
Very good.
Stacey, sitcom that you think is underappreciated?
Again, yeah, I don't know if this is like actually underappreciated, but I feel like it is. Arrested Development. I love Arrested Development, and I remember watching it. Like that was the first show I ever, like my friends would come over and we would all watch it together. Like that was the first show I ever remember doing that every week. And then when it got canceled and how like sad we all were and like what are we supposed to do? Yeah, and I feel like it should not have gotten canceled. It's so good. Dustin hates it. He doesn't think it's funny at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Where I cannot stop laughing. Like I just think everything is funny. Like Jason Bateman makes a face and I think it's hysterical.
Yeah.
All the callbacks, like I just can't get over it. I think it's so funny. And it might be like, I'm not good at remembering that stuff. So maybe it's because I've watched it a couple of times and it takes me a couple of times to like get the callbacks. I don't know what it is, but I just love it so much. And the narration, oh my God, it's great.
It's one of those shows that like it's legitimately hard for me to. I know what you're thinking, Trey. It's legitimately hard for me, or at least I think I do. Maybe I don't. Now that you're giving me that look, it's legitimately hard for me to pick like a favorite character. They're all so good as their characters that it's legitimately hard for me to like say, oh, I love this one the most.
Is it Ron Howard's best work?
That is exactly, yes. It is the best thing that Ron Howard has ever been a part of.
Oh, wow.
Like that's also another drunken debate where it's like,
he's been a part of a lot.
You hate the Eagles? What about Ron Howard?
That is not what I thought you were going to say at all, Michael. I think every character on there is fantastic. I can't pick a favorite character, but I definitely have a favorite three. Tony Hale and Jessica Walter as Buster and Lucille, I think is one of the greatest character duos that has ever been written for television.
Yeah.
There is not Jessica Walter is brilliant.
Yeah.
And Tony Hale is just so underrated. And then David Cross as Tobias. It's just so many good one-liners. He obviously has a bigger role, and I feel like I'm relating a lot of things back to The Office. But Creed on The Office is one of those just great underrated one-liner characters, and it's just like most of the quotes I remember from Arrested Development are just Tobias, like "Don't leave your Uncle T-Bad hanging." Like it's just such a good show.
I'm not gonna lie, I've had it in my cart multiple times, like sailor outfits for me and Ollie, my 5-year-old. Because I'll tell Dustin, like, just in case we want to go to Mother Boy, and he doesn't understand, he doesn't think it's funny at all. But
God, the Mother Boy bit is so good.
It's so good, and I want to do it so bad with Ollie. Like, I just want to walk around with him in like matching sailor outfits or something.
And they spend like an entire season with like Tobias trying to make it into the Blue Man group. Like it's such a low bar of even trying to make it in the first place. But just like they did, that and the Never Nude, it's a great show.
Arrested Development, like the first season when it started airing, I remember I watched it because I was just like, literally, I was like, somebody hired Jason Bateman to do something, like the Teen Wolf 2 guy, and then it started, and like I was just like, this is really funny, and then I just remember constantly thinking, especially at the time, like I remember constantly thinking, like, who let them put this show on TV? It was at the time, it was like so different.
Yeah.
It was just a joke a mile a minute, and then just all the inside jokes that it accumulates throughout the course of the series. And I at the time, I just remember thinking, like, I can't believe that this is on television, much less network television.
Liza Minnelli, the Lucille.
Yes.
The Lucille, yeah.
Gosh, I almost, like seriously, I had this on a short list for sitcom that changed your life, because it was so different and just so freaking weird. I adore how weird it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Trey, sitcom that you can watch over and over again.
Sitcom that I can watch over and over again. It wasn't even a question. I wrote it down immediately. The only reason I thought about it for half a second is because I wanted to put it potentially for another one. The Office. I've seen, Beck and I have tried counting, and we can't. We legitimately don't know how many times we've seen the entire series, including the final season. We don't know how many times we've seen it all the way through from beginning to end. We know there is one episode that Becca has only seen twice. I've seen several times because it doesn't bother me, and that's Scott's Tots. Yep. Doesn't bother me at all. It's a sitcom, people. It's nothing.
It's so cringy.
Although there's a great...
And to be fair, you're talking about the American Office, not the British Office.
The American Office, yes. The Office US. Although the UK one is also fantastic and probably underappreciated, but a very different humor, really, in the base level. It's a pretty different humor. The American Office, there's a great meme going on around right now from the Scott's Tots episodes. It's basically Biden before the election, and it shows Michael promising everything to the young black kids, and then Biden after the election. It shows Michael and the sitting in the classroom going. Excellent meme. But The Office, this was my choice. My choice for bands was the Beatles, and it's very similar sort of thing. Even if I get tired of an episode or a season, I can always happily just move to a different episode or a different season. I watch it every year for going back to the calendar seasons. I watch the Halloween episodes every year. I watch the Christmas episodes every year. There's even a few Valentine's Day episodes that I watch. It's a brilliant show, and I very much enjoy watching it, and I've almost always, every single day, almost have it on at some point, even if it's just playing in the background. And the best part is, even if it's playing in the background, I cannot watch for 10 minutes, go back to watching it, and know exactly what they're talking about and what has happened. So I don't even have to fully pay attention.
It's well covered in our friend group. That I believe, right, that we are 50-50 on Scott's Tots. Trey and I are pro Scott's Tots, and Stacy and Sean are anti Scott's Tots.
You get past any of it, it's god awful.
No, okay. For my opinion of Scott's Tots, and I think Michael will agree with this, you cannot say you hate Scott's Tots and say you like the British version of The Office.
I don't.
Because that's fine. I'm just saying you can't dislike one and like the other, because that is that David Brent cringe.
I can say that, and I will say that. Because
But it's that extreme cringe comedy that's supposed to make you uncomfortable.
I would argue that David Brent is like that through his entire series.
Yeah,
and I mean maybe was lured into a false comfort with Michael Scott that maybe I wouldn't have to endure that kind of cringe. I think it is a fantastic episode. I think that is an amazing episode of television. I hate watching it. So if I can ride the fence for just a bit, I think it's perfect. I hate it.
I think I legitimately think Sean is correct in his assessment of Scott's Tots being a part of the American Office. In terms of like, yes, you need, in terms of you're making a show, you need to be consistent. And you're right. It is inconsistent. I still love it.
Is it though?
Yeah.
It takes the cringe to another level. But think
does.
about Michael Scott as a person. It's very realistic to believe that that's something he would do. Because all he really wants is to be loved by people, and he's so bad at follow through. Yeah. It's just this is follow through on a grander, deeper, harder level. But right, you can fully believe that Michael Scott made that promise. And
now I'm back on Trey's side.
I can understand that. I can understand that because I do think he grows. I think he changes as a character, and it's perfectly reasonable to believe that a Michael Scott that was before the show started would have done something like that, and then just never wanted to address it. So I can see that perspective as well. Absolutely.
Well, he even addresses it in the show. He kept saying he just hoped it would work out, which is also very Michael Scott.
It is. So, I see what you're saying.
But my own what?
But I'm not watching that episode.
My own perspective it is that like the only other than like the later, like basically post Michael Scott, where I think The Office really takes a plunge.
Yeah.
Again, like a lot of sitcoms do. My only issue with The Office, and I love The Office, but like my only issue with it was that I wished it would be a bit more darker and go a bit more darker with Michael Scott. And Sean is correct in that, like, well, but that's not what they did. They did go in a different direction with the character than the British Office. Although even the British Office, like in the end, David Brent, there's redemption. There's some redemption there. That's very heartwarming. Mm-hmm. But when that show aired, I remember thinking like, yes, like this is a British episode of the American Office. Like I love this. And so it hit something that I really wanted personally. So I loved it, but I also understand Sean's very good point of like, but is it consistent? But also now I understand Trey's point of like, it could have been consistent, and now I don't know what to think.
Well, and there is where with David Brent, you don't get a lot until the end. You don't get a lot of humanizing elements, and that's what Michael Scott or what Steve Carell was criticized for in season 1. Is that he was trying to play David Brent, but then in seasons 2 through 7, he humanizes Michael Scott. He brings a softness to it. And that's even true in Scott's Tots. In his innocent, idiotic, naive way, he tries to bring them something and just hope and pray that they'll still love him in some way.
And it was laptop batteries.
Yeah, but that's the brilliance of the comedy. It's just so ridiculous that he would think that somehow in any way compensates for what he's fallen through. But David Brent would just sort of be like, screw you, like whatever, that's
what was that? So, is that David Brent? Was that supposed to be?
No.
So in terms of what you said about David Brent, like not having what did you say? That he's not
Humanizing.
humanized.
He's colder.
I think like there's such a big difference between, and I think this is actually an interesting topic in and of itself, looking at the British office and the American office and looking at like what makes British people different than American people. Because I think the British version of the show, which I watched before the American office was even a thing, and loving it, like, and still like loving it. I think it is one of the greatest sitcoms ever. It doesn't appear on my list, but I do love it, and I thought about it. But one of the things that it interestingly does is I feel like it does humanize David Brent in his own humiliation. Because what it does is it takes a character and says, this guy is legitimately mean, sexist, awful, like all these things, but it also in his humiliation, like makes you feel for him, and makes you kind of like wonder, like, who did this to you, you know? And to the extent that like like I said, like at the end in the Christmas specials that wrap up the British office, his moments of triumph, which aren't much, but his moments of triumph like really make you like believe in the humanity of those assholes that we know, if that makes any sense. And so in a way, I think the British office is more optimistic than the American office because they didn't go there.
Before you said all of that, I already thought before that you were a better person than me, just roundabouts. That only furthers that, because I never felt sympathy for or humanized feelings towards David Brent at all. Like at all. Really? I think I love the British office, and I think it's funny and it's cringy, and it's definitely a dark British humor. But I thought there was a lighthearted twist at the end, but I never felt compassion or sympathy towards him.
He's just so sad.
No, I just think I'm like, he's an ass. I mean, it's funny because it's a TV show, but he's an ass. But again, I respect and admire your willingness to believe there's human qualities to him in relation to other people we've talked about. I don't. I don't like him.
I think he's weak. Funny. Like that's the thing is like he's weak, and like he's. I think the key here, man, we're really going into this, but like I think the key here is Finchy in the British office is Finch, the guy that David Koechner plays his counterpart in the American office. It's this guy who comes in, he's bullish and he's a bully, and he makes David Brent feel like a piece of crap, and like he bullies him. And you see, I feel like there, like how David Brent has gotten to where he is, just because like other people have taken advantage of his weaknesses. And so he, in this way of like almost trying to protect himself, chooses to act in the way that he does because he looks up to Finchy. And at the risk of spoiling it, so if anybody has not seen the British Office and you want to go see the British Office, skip ahead. But so at the end, where in the Christmas special, the biggest moment is just where David Brent turns to Finchy and says, "Finchy, why don't you just fuck off?" And that to me is like a stand up and cheer moment. Like brought me so much joy. And so I see what you're saying, but I don't think I'm a better person than you though.
I was just gonna say, I think he's humanizing in that he is just so desperately wants to be loved and respected, and I mean, I feel that, I sense that in myself, not nearly to that extent of coming off, like an ass, like just, doing everything for my own benefit and my own gain, but just desperately wanting to be loved and respected, to the point of pushing everybody away, of pushing those people away that even make me feel like they might not even be interested in that. So I find him humanizing just in that way. Who's not humanizing is Jim.
Yes.
That person. He's garbage. He's a garbage human.
The last time we talked about this, or that it was brought up that Jim is garbage, I was like, no, wait. Oh my God.
He's a terrible human being.
He's a
Jim
bully.
Is the
Villain.
Antagonist of the entire series.
My sitcom that I can watch over and over again is Seinfeld. It's another one of those where I feel like every character on there, all 4 characters, main characters, are just fantastic and specifically like great. I think Julia Louis-Dreyfus, of course, as we've already spoken of, is fantastic in that. I think
Beautiful.
George, Jason Alexander, as this kind of precursor to Curb Your Enthusiasm's take on Larry David is so good, and the neuroses and the thinking of things that like nobody ever talked about on national television. Those little things that like drive people insane, and those weird quirks that you have with other people that just was never a thing. Specifically because like Jerry Seinfeld, and this is well-worn territory, but Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David were notorious for, they had their room of writers. They had their writers' room who would constantly be like pitching things like in the writers' room, and Jerry and Larry would just be like, no, that's not good. And then they'd be at lunch and a writer would be talking about like something that had happened to him that day that was just weird or awkward. And Jerry and Larry would be like, that's a show. That's an episode. Write that up. And that's the kind of revolutionary part of Seinfeld, is just like, we want to put stuff on here that is the minutia of life that no one would ever think you could do a show about. And then at the same time, we're going to kind of, most of the time, like have these, typically at that time in sitcoms, you had your A story and your B story and maybe a C story where each character is having kind of different storylines that run throughout the episode. And Seinfeld always did this amazing thing of like bringing all those aspects together at the end, almost like a punchline, like a narrative punchline that I cannot get enough of. And it's something that Curb still does. I love Jerry Seinfeld. Like he is not the greatest actor in the world, but I legitimately think some of his line readings on that show are some of the funniest and some of the things that stick in my head most. And Kramer, I'm blanking on his name. Michael Richards. Possibly the greatest physical comedian of our time. The things that he would do in his reactions and his body movement, like I don't understand how he would do them. And they were just so funny and such a bizarre character. The badass move that Jerry Seinfeld did, which I can't think of another example of it, in terms of like, we're on top, both critically and by audience. We are massive and we are huge, and I want to end it now. And because I want to go out on top, and I don't want to be one of those shows that overstays its welcome. That is one of the most badass moves in all of entertainment. And yeah, I can just watch that show, and I do. I will just, that's the show that I will turn on if I just want something on in the background, is I will watch Seinfeld.
Yeah, Seinfeld is not on my list, but it was number 2 on my short list for this and another category. It's and how it's brilliant. You're right. All four actors could not have been more perfect. I don't feel like it overstayed its welcome at all, and I think it got better. And that's not to say I love season 1 and season 2. I think they're brilliant, but I think every year it just got better and they meshed more, and it's just brilliantly funny. There was a lot of things fundamentally, like in terms of society, I was introduced to through that show, things that they weren't talking about you didn't see on television. You didn't see people talking on television. And I learned about those things and the concepts and themes of those things from Seinfeld. And they did it in such a comical way that it didn't even faze me that it was something people weren't talking about, because they were so funny about it as well. Yeah. It's a great show.
Well, like that makes me think of like an episode like The Contest, which is the episode where all four, Jerry, Elaine, George, and Kramer, all make a bet that they're not going to masturbate, and whoever masturbates last, or I guess holds out longest, wins the bet. And number one, just at the time, like the audacity to number one, like do that, but number one, and like number two, have a woman be a part of that. Mm-hmm. But also the thing that I love, and for whatever reason, I've watched a ton of like behind the scenes Seinfeld stuff because it's fascinating to me, like the creation of it and the background stuff. But they tell the story about how when they came up with that idea, they went to the studio execs with it. And they were like, no, you can't do this. Like, you can't do this on national television because you cannot say that word. Like, you can't talk about masturbation. And Larry and Jerry were like, we're not going to. We're never going to mention it. Like, the audience is going to know what we're talking about. We don't have to spell it out for them, which is another thing about Seinfeld is I just think it was one of the first times a show dared to think that its audience wasn't a bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
And that they didn't have to like make it, Big Bang Theory. And so they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to dumb it down. And they trusted their audience was going to be there with them and understand what's going on. And that's one of the best shows or episodes of the show is The Contest.
I've never seen a single episode of that show.
Oh my God.
I've only
seen it on Hulu. Both of you should watch Veep and Seinfeld. Yes. Go watch it right now.
Busy.
Okay.
John, sitcom you can watch over and over again.
Mine is Parks and Recreation.
Nice. That's a good one.
Yeah. But this is where I've now gotten myself into trouble, right? Uh-oh. Because like Modern Family, it does not tell you what the documentary is.
Yes.
That they're filming, unlike The Office that, gives you that information. Parks and Rec is that mockumentary style, but never completes the circle. So that's where I've gotten myself into trouble. But for some reason, it doesn't bother me nearly as much as Modern Family. Maybe it's the quick push-ins that they don't have those. But anyway, yeah, Parks and Recreation. I adore Parks and Recreation.
I've never thought about it until you said it, but it's the same thing. I've noticed it with Modern Family. I've never noticed it with Parks and Rec until you referenced it earlier. So maybe it's just that Parks and Rec is just overall a better put together show. Not to take anything away from Modern Family, because I love it. I think it's a great show, but I still think that Parks and Rec is probably one of the best ensemble casts that's ever been put together. It's just every single one of them are incredible and funny and works so well, and it's so believable, which is not something you really normally care about a whole lot for a sitcom, but the relationship dynamic between the characters is authentic and comes across as believable. And maybe that's why. Maybe it's also just because it's a municipal Parks and Recreation, and I legitimately believe someone would make a documentary about a municipal Parks and Recreation department. But I have noticed that and felt that with Modern Family, but I never have with Parks and Rec.
And John Hamm is the best cameo in that entire
Easily.
Yeah.
easily.
So dumb too.
Watched it like I think within the last like 6 months. I just watched Parks and Rec for the first time. And I have a big crush on Nick Offerman. Oh man.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, he's great.
He's a good dude.
He is a good dude.
I have the probably unpopular opinion that Parks and Rec is superior to The Office as a whole. And one of the things that's interesting about Parks and Rec is that, and something that they kind of figured out was like that first season, that very shortened first season, Leslie Knope is kind of a female Michael Scott. And when the second season comes around, they talked about how we think that's a mistake. Like we don't need to do that. In fact, what if we went the opposite way with it? Like, what if instead of like a terrible boss, she is the best boss that has ever existed? And could we make that funny? And they did. And that's what I think is interesting about Parks and Rec, is just that it's such a good-hearted show that is hilarious. And that is really hard to do. Stacey, sitcom you can watch over and over again.
New Girl. And that's because of Sean. I don't know why I didn't watch New Girl when it was like in the beginning. I have no idea, because I really liked Zooey Deschanel. Like, I really like her. And I used to buy those fluffy dresses from Anthropologie because I really liked like her whole vibe. Like right after Dustin and I got married, that's like what I wore all the time. I don't know what I was doing with my life. And then Sean was like, you should really watch it. You would like it. And when I quit my job and was really depressed, all I did was watch New Girl. And then I never stopped. Like it's on all the time. I just watch it over and over and over again. It's just so funny. And it's about a girl and her like best friends, her boy best friends. Like us. Aww.
Aww.
And I texted y'all, like, I don't even know how long ago it was, but I was watching the episode where I think she gets fired from her job or whatever, and she makes a mixed cloth collage of everybody's faces. And I'm really, like, I'm not even kidding. I was like, I wonder if there's a picture of us that I could, like, do an embroidery of.
There is.
Faces. It's of your butt. The only picture.
What?
I feel like that needs some context.
I think the only picture we have where there's all of us, it's of our faces and Michael's butt.
What? I mean, there's also my back, the back of my legs, the back of my head.
Fine. Michael's entire backside is what it is. The episode where Jess tries to learn how to use the dating app, like Schmidt tries to teach her how to use the dating app. And I swear if Trey and I knew each other in college, I feel like that's how, like that dynamic that she has with Schmidt in that episode, I feel like it's mine and Trey's shenanigan. I don't know. I just really love that episode.
So I liked New Girl and hated Schmidt.
But you're the Schmidt.
And I believed myself to be Winston.
You're not the Winston.
And then Stacy was like, "Nah, you're Schmidt." I was like, I'm not Schmidt.
I also think that Winston's my least favorite character. I liked him.
I love Winston.
Oh, sacrilege.
No. Winston is my favorite character.
I mean, he's not.
So
He's.
goofy.
It's hard to beat Jake Johnson for me,
Yeah.
Nick Miller, but man, I love how just stinking weird Winston is.
Winston's
He's
my
so
favorite
weird.
He got super weird. Like in the beginning, he wasn't.
Yeah,
He
you're
was
right.
completely normal, and then
And that's what's brilliant about it.
then the bird shirts. Trey, you're not a bird shirt guy,
He might be.
You don't. I'm gonna be a bird shirt guy now.
buddy. You have a shiny suit.
Anyway, so when she told me I was Schmidt, and I was deeply offended, and then a couple other people were like, "No, that tracks." And then I went back and watched it, and I was like, shit.
Yeah.
I can kind of see it. And so now I had already decided I didn't like Schmidt. So this is probably like some like intensive therapy like session type thing that I need to go through, that apparently people think I tend to be that. And this isn't the only friend group who has said that I am the Schmidt of the friend group. So
It's
that's
just
probably problematic, but
Hold on, you have other friend groups?
Not
Do you have
allowed.
other friend groups?
beating on us.
I can't go any lower than this.
Trey, you're just so well coiffed.
Do you have
I
podcasts?
don't
with
like
them?
that. I didn't like that. I didn't like
Do you
that
have
phrase at all.
podcasts? Do you have answer the question? Do you have podcasts with those friend groups?
How many podcasts do
don't.
you have going right now?
Yeah, Trey.
Right now, in this exact moment, I have one. Right now. What's the game? When are we going to play that game?
I asked
Well,
True American.
True American
Nope.
every year for my birthday. I've asked, and I just keep breaking more and more bones. So
I will say, if we're going to do it, it's going to. I mean, that's a rough game to play in your 40s. So we need to get on it sooner rather than later.
That'll be a special edition of the podcast where we attempt to play True American. All right, that's us for part one of the sitcoms of your life. We'll be back with part two here in a couple of weeks. We want to hear from you, your opinions, your thoughts. Keller Bear has a podcast at gmail.com. Sean, would you like to toast us out, please?
Yes. So from all of us here at Keller Bear has a podcast, may the winds of the future be a promise to both the past and the present and really everything in between. And then also we can have the grass that blows in the fields of beauty can be blown, and they can sway from south to east and north to east. And then
It's a diagonal.
so from all of us here,
Southeast.
may you have a light that is shining in the darkness and non-darkness, and
Wasn't that just light?
may the switch be
Switch.
inside of you all along, so that you
I can't drink
can go back to the grass and
Mm-hmm.
Bring it back to
Fine.
grass.
and then you find that sometimes it rains,
What?
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's sunny, and sometimes it's something in between, and may your life
Mm.
be
Exciting.
cursive in the midst of
Cursive.
sans serif, and
You said
Just
cursive?
name
It
the
said
fonts.
zero?
there's a sometimes because
Is cursive a font?
sometimes there are clouds, and we want those clouds not to have a silver lining, but like a platinum lining that that provide its own light, really, for you and me and all humans. And sometimes you can hear a train in the distance.
Slam deliciously.
Slam deliciously.
I like the remix.
Slam deliciously.
Yeah, it's so
Slam
good, right?
deliciously.